Welcome to the Overcommitted podcast, your weekly dose of real engineering conversations. I'm your host today, Erika. I met my co-host while working on a team at GitHub, and we quickly discovered we were all obsessed with getting better at what we do. So we decided to start this podcast to share what we've learned. We'll be talking about everything from leveling up your technical skills to navigating your professional development, all with the goal of creating a community where developers can learn and connect. Today on Overcommitted, we are joined by Salma Alam-Naylor. Salma is a web developer, international speaker, tech educator, and entertainer. Before she ever wrote a line of professional code, she graduated from the Royal Northern College of Music, played in bands, composed, taught music, and even did a stint in musical comedy. She pivoted into tech in 2014 and has been on an absolute tear since then. She is a GitHub star, a former Microsoft MVP, and spent 5 years as a partnered Twitch streamer where she built a live chat controlled game that her community could play in real time. She recently wrapped up that chapter and is now head of developer education at Nordcraft. She also has a newsletter called The Weird Wide Web Hole, where she sends subscribers 4 strange links every Thursday. No further explanation needed on that one. Salma, welcome to Overcommitted.
Hi, Erika. Thank you for having me and welcoming me to the podcast.
To kick us off, what's something you're currently building or learning that has you excited right now? And this can be tech or it can be a drum piece that you're learning, anything that lights you up currently.
For the first time in over a decade, I'm actually writing a new song that I'm going to release in the next month or so. And it's hard, so I did composition at music college. You know, writing music was my whole thing. I wanted to be a film composer, actually, initially. And I think I still do, but that's a long story. And for all the parents out there, as you know, when you have a child, your life and things that you want to do kind of like go out of the window for a while. And my child is 8 now. And I think I'm starting to get a little bit more time to myself to do my hobbies and what I want to do. But I felt like there's been lots of music inside me since the pandemic, actually, the early pandemic. I've had stuff inside of me, but it hasn't manifested. But now I'm inspired and I'm doing it. I'm ready and it's almost finished and I'm going to make a music video and I'm going to release it. I already have a new website and a domain and everything that I'm going to put it on. So that's what I'm really excited about actually at the moment.
That's so cool. I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, that's got to be, I know that feeling where you have something inside and you want to get it out, you want to get it to the world. And yeah, how cool that you're kind of reconnecting with that.
Yeah.
And bringing it to life.
It's giving me life actually. And I feel more like myself than I ever have in the last 10 years. So this is a good thing.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's something that, kids will look at and know for years to come that you're doing this too.
My son, actually, I've showed obviously my family previews of the song and my son is walking around the house singing it already. So that's a good sign.
That's good. My daughter is solidly in the mommy don't sing phase.
Oh no.
Anytime I open my mouth, it's like, no, stop. It's my turn.
Been there.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So you sort of made your name doing something that to me personally sounds incredibly terrifying, which is live coding. This is, where you built an international following. You describe it as something that transformed your career in tech. So was it intimidating for you, or did your kind of background as a performer make it feel natural?
I think right at the beginning, yes, it was intimidating. It was scary to go live. I remember the first few times I went live, it wasn't as scary at that point because there were 3 people watching me. So it's just, I don't know, weird. But quickly I realized that when people are watching you and you are there pressing the buttons and speaking and stuff, you're the one in control.
Mhm.
And I could control how long I stayed live, what I was doing, what the topics of conversation were. And as soon as you realize you have the captive audience and you are in control, then it doesn't really become a big deal anymore. But and I do obviously attribute that to the fact that, I was a teacher, I was on stage, I was a performer. And so naturally throughout my whole life, I'd been in front of big audiences. I was also actually in a folk band in my early 20s, and I played some very big festivals and stuff for, thousands of people. So the lights so bright that you couldn't even see who was out there. So a lot of the time, actually, when I was streaming, I kind of felt like I was back on stage doing that. And I must say, I do miss it. But I'm going to answer why I stopped in your next question.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to kind of know, where you started and sort of your experience at the very beginning. And then I'm sure, yeah, you're already talking about it kind of transformed for you uh throughout the years and then yeah, you stopped. So can you kind of walk me through the journey, how it changed and then your decision to end it?
I mean, I think the reasons are manifold, but the main reason was, so I initially broke into DevRel or whatever people call it now because I became recognized as an educator and a developer through Twitch, and I met people who knew people and stuff. And in the early days of that part of my career, it was still pretty much locked down everywhere, and so it was a very valuable skill to be able to get on stream and talk to an audience of developers. Previously, before 2020, you would have been going to events or speaking on stages, and the landscape of DevRel really, really changed then. And being a prolific, good streamer was seen as being a valuable asset to a DevRel team at the time. And, and I got my first 2 DevRel jobs basically because I was a good streamer and lots of people watched me and I was building fun stuff and we were having a great time. And it was different to all the other streams that were going on at the time that were very kind of a lot, I think it still happens now, but there's a lot of people who will turn a stream on and leave it there for 6 hours and just pretty much go about their day. But I made sure to put on a show every time I went live. It was more of a time box, like, we're going to do this today and I've got all these flashy things and flashy lights and we're going to be entertained and you're going to learn something at the same time. So rather than more co-working, it was just, I'm going to do a thing. But as time went on and, we kind of moved out of lockdowns and COVID and COVID stuff, businesses and DevRel teams and marketing teams in particular wanted to make sure that those activities were providing value. And DevRel developer relations is notoriously hard to provide concrete value, especially monetary value evidence, because of the nature of the activities. And, I was in departments where, I was streaming 3 times a week and people were counting my views and audience numbers and, really just to try and justify me seemingly having too much fun in my day job, because it was fun for me as well. And then when those numbers started to be tracked and things, and then the pressure came a little bit more. But I really had very little control over those kinds of numbers because you have to take into consideration time zones, the discovery of your streams on things like Twitch. Notoriously, Twitch didn't really spotlight software and development streams, especially in the early days. And then it became kind of like, oh, well, what's the point in doing it anymore? Because I don't want to get fired. And, it was like, I was told very specifically one time, we pay your salary, so you shouldn't be having fun on Twitch. And it was like, okay. And then AI came, right? And then it was like, people aren't tuning in to these kinds of streams anymore. And it's funny, I didn't stream much in 2025. And my brand of streaming was always based on the struggle that I went through to show an authentic, genuine experience. And a lot of the viewers would always comment that, oh, I thought it was just me that struggled with that and things like that. So I wanted to make it really raw and real. But now things have changed. And number one, people are not coding in the way I used to code on stream much anymore. And so I think if I went live now and did what I always did, I would get a lot of silly questions about why are you doing it like that and why aren't you using AI? Why aren't you just generating your app rather than hand coding your HTML tags and things. And I just don't think I wanted to deal with that.
Yeah.
But also I think that the landscape of what developers want has changed. Like back then when I first started, it was about, we can't go outside, so let's find a way to hang out together and find a community together. And now life is pretty much back to normal. And so it's kind of flipped the other way around. And people don't tune into streams in their workday anymore because they're back in the office.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I just stopped streaming because my numbers went down or, people aren't watching me. But it's like the landscape is so different to what it was in 2020 that I just felt that it was time to remove that cognitive overload of I'm a streamer from my brain and from my desk. I got rid of my streaming PC. I sold that and I streamlined my office. And it was just time for something else. And I'm fond of that time, but I also feel like it had run its course. And I think that's also a good example to set for the community out there. It's like when things aren't serving you anymore, when things don't make you excited anymore, it's okay to stop and move on to something else. And who knows, maybe if I hadn't have stopped streaming, maybe I wouldn't be writing a new song right now. So, it's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's like so much there. And I think my first reaction is like a twinge of sadness, not for you necessarily. Yeah, I definitely see the value in like turning over a new chapter, starting something. But in order to start something, you do have to stop something, paying no attention to the name of this podcast being Overcommitted, where you keep adding to the plate and never take anything away. I think in order for it to be sustainable, you do have to take something away. It's sad to me that the sort of like pressure of monetization and also scale are kind of the first two things that you mentioned as taking the fun away. I mean, and also AI, like mentioning the developer landscape. And like, I'm sitting here thinking like, I love watching people write line by line and explain their thinking step by step. Like, yeah, I would never tune in to somebody auto-generating code. Like, to me, it's like, why? Why would I watch that?
This is another thing, though, that I discovered whilst I was streaming. There's a large proportion of people out there who have been led to believe that there are shortcuts to building stuff and this kind of thing. The amount of people that came in to the stream and asked me, how do I become a web developer in 6 weeks? And how can I get a job in 6 weeks? I'm a beginner. And it's like, that's a whole different ball game. And you need to be able to put in the work. And I think that's another thing that I wanted to demonstrate. Putting in the work does reap you benefits. And I think, I don't know, it's the landscape of the developer landscape is quite a strange one at the moment. And I feel that so many things are being pushed by big companies that like the real authenticity of the real people, the real developers who are working in this industry is kind of getting like overshadowed by this big stuff and this desire for shortcut. And every company and every tool is trying to provide you with a quick win and a shortcut. And I just don't believe it's sustainable. And I guess I didn't want to have to keep explaining that over and over to the more and more people who were coming in to the stream also to have that kind of discussion. And I felt like maybe I could direct, rather than to talk about that to like 60 people at a time, I could direct those kinds of efforts to something that might have a bit more impact. It might scale a bit more. It sounds a bit silly, but I think you do, when you want to make an impact, like I think you do have to be strategic about how you do it. And when you want to help people, I think it sounds silly, but strategy also comes into that in like, how can you reach the right people and how can you give them the help that they need? And streams are very ephemeral. They exist for that time and people aren't really going back to watch streams either. So that's like 4 hours of effort and live show and education that, yes, I could cut it up into a YouTube video, which I did experiment with for a couple of years, but like nobody watches those either because you have to be there for the live show. Because of all the stuff that was going on my stream with all the things raining down and the alerts and the sounds, that gives you the real experience of the stream, and you kind of couldn't communicate that in like a cut up clipped video either. And so the ephemeralness of streams, I think it's not a wasted opportunity, but it's also how can you take that and direct that energy to something that's not so ephemeral and not so fleeting if it's really important to you, do you know?
Yeah. Well, let's dig into that because you won a Community Creator Award from Jamstack in 2021.
That's an
And
old word, isn't it? No one really
yeah.
talks about that anymore.
And part of what's cited in, your award is your commitment to helping the community with this improving on diversity and also reducing the toxicity of internet communities. What does that mean to you in practice? That's yeah, what do those kinds of words mean and what did that mean to you at the time or now?
It was just really about being nice
Mm,
to everyone and anyone. And regardless of their attitude or demeanor as well, little things like people would come into the stream and say, why are you using this framework? Why are you not using that framework? And here is a great opportunity to actually discuss why that's a silly question. And also, have you considered that maybe when you ask this type of question, what other kind of things are you implying? Like, oh, you're using a bad framework. That means you're not good enough. And what was really nice was that everyone who was watching at the time as well would always try to educate that person in the same way, and a
mm,
great conversation will come out of it. And it's like the tech pits so many things against each other. It's always X versus Y. It's always this versus that. This is better than this. You should be using this now. Otherwise, you're being left behind. Like, those things are irrelevant. It's what you do with the tools that you use, and it's the outcomes and the impact that you make. And I guess that was the underlying message of everything. And that's why so many times I just started new websites with an HTML file. And of course, I would get like questioned for that all the time. Why aren't you using a framework? So I don't need one. Like, are you?
yeah.
I don't need one. And here's a great opportunity to tell you why. And it's also, as well as those kind of things, it's about modeling the good behavior, not getting involved in all the drama. It's weird, actually. I haven't, maybe because I've muted so many things on the internet, but I don't really see much tech drama these days, which is quite nice. And it's about like distancing yourself from that, because people would always try and ask me, what do you think about this? I'm like, I have no opinion, actually. I'm not going to get involved. And, maybe that's also a thing that comes with age. I don't know. But so it's about being nice, modeling the good behavior, not getting involved in the drama, and then also celebrating the good stuff, lifting people up. And a lot of that comes with working behind the scenes with people, and it's not about doing it in public. I've mentored quite a few people. I've connected people with people to get jobs. I've, helped them with their portfolio and their resumes and things like that. And obviously, those are the kind of things that are going to make like impact for individuals, which I've always prioritized. Like I've always said, like, if I can help just like one person do something that they want to do, and achieve something, and to help them on their way with, whether it's just introducing someone to someone or looking at their website, then by all means, I'm going to do that, because people did that kind of stuff for me early on. I wouldn't be here if I didn't get connected from one streamer to her friend who was hiring. And I just want to give that back, because people deserve the chance. And it's hard out there, especially with all of these algorithmic feeds and people gravitating towards the drama and stuff. Like your portfolio is not a drama piece, so no one really cares. But actually, I'm going to help people care,
Yeah.
because I think people deserve that level of respect. And it's just, I don't know, like it's hard to say these are the rules I live by, because obviously every situation is different. But I just try to be nice and helpful to people whenever I can, whenever they ask me. And that pays dividends in the end, because maybe I'll get a favor again one day, and it's not as if I do it to get favors back, but like everyone helps each other, like behind the scenes, everyone comes together in this kind of underground community to help each other, which I think is wonderful. And I just don't think I'd be here without that either. So thank you to anyone who helped me out there.
Well, yeah, that shows some real strength of character too, to get those kinds of comments and then not shrink or not I don't know, return the anger or frustration. And yeah, I mean, I also used to be a teacher, and I always found that in my classrooms there was always one kid. Like, there's always that one kid in the class who's like acting crazy. You come to class every day and you're like, well, I know it's going to be fill in the blank, and you kind of like expect that as a part of life. But yeah, I mean, on the internet, it feels amplified to a certain degree because you don't have that face, you don't have that personal connection. But it sounds like part of what you did is build that personal connection with these people, and that's really the only way to move forward with those things.
Don't get me wrong. Like at the beginning, it was sometimes tough when I would get, sexually harassed on Twitch streams and stuff, and it was tough. And I was a lot younger then. And I hate to say it, but I think it helped me develop a resilience for that.
Yeah.
As time went on. And it's just about remembering that you're in control. And these people who are acting in this way, they are the ones who are hurt. They are the ones who are in need. And I kind of started treating people like that, like a child, because children don't know things and they'll say things and you have to kind of, educate them and talk to them sensitively and with compassion and with curiosity. And I think becoming a parent, when I first started streaming, my child was 2. And I think, you learn a lot when they start to become their own person. And so I think in tandem, being a parent, learning how to deal with things like that, coupled with a teaching experience and just the resilience that it helped me build through doing it for so long, I think all of those things helped. People will ask me, how did you do this? How did you do that? What's your recipe for this? What's your rules? And it's like, well, it just happened and things just happen and everyone's situation is going to be different. So don't take any of my advice, really. Find your own way. I don't know, maybe you can, but I always feel strange giving out advice because things just happened and I dealt with them and I grew as a result.
Well, I am going to ask you for your advice.
Okay.
I guess for people who want to make the internet a better place, what would you tell them as far as like, can you do this as a part of your day job? Is this something that you have to do, through open source or something else? Like what's kind of your thoughts there?
The tough thing is that the being on the internet today, it is tough because of the mental overheads of everything that you see and that is put in front of you, which can exhaust you greatly. And so the first bit of advice I would say is make your own experience of the internet better first. And, unfollow things that make you rage inside, mute profusely, block, and don't engage with any of those things that are taking up your time and causing negativity. And then I think once you do that, and it's hard, right? It's hard. But once you do that, I think then you make for yourself the thinking space and the breathing space to think about the next thing. What could be the next thing? What could be better for us? Avoid algorithmic infinite scrolls and then your brain will recover from the damage that that's doing. And then you'll have more time and energy to think about what you want to get out of it. Because maybe what I want the internet to be is not what the next person wants the internet to be. But the joy of the internet is that it can be anything for anyone. There are so many different corners of the internet that you can explore and find a home on, indie web, like weird links and weird places and forums and small little communities, and it's going to be different for everyone. But ultimately, it starts with curating your own experience, maybe move to RSS instead of, infinitely scrolling TikTok or whatever. But like it's been forced on us for so long now. I think social media is probably one of the most damaging things that has happened to the internet, really. And I actually remember watching the documentary or some video about the person who invented infinite scroll, and they deeply regret it. And so I think unfortunately, though, that the tech industry and all those kinds of products on the internet have created for us these problems, and now they're trying to sell us the solutions, wellness apps, dopamine detoxes and whatnot. But it's the kind of mirrors the whole, as I'm a middle-aged woman, and I'm now, if I see adverts, they are targeting my age and depleting estrogen and, oh no, wrinkles. These are problems that don't exist. These are manufactured problems that you are now being sold a solution to, and the internet and social media is no different. And it makes you feel bad when you have no right to be made to feel like. So curate your own experience, and then and also understand that there are no shortcuts to any of this, and it can't just be made better overnight. But apparently, I shared a video in my newsletter today, and apparently it only takes 25% of a mass, of a group, to tip the scales the other way to something better or something different. And with that in mind, if we can just get 25% of us to curate a better internet, to create a better experience in our little corner of just 25%, then maybe change will happen.
Well, that gives me hope.
That was the title of the video, actually.
Yeah.
There is hope. There is actually hope.
There is hope. Well, speaking of no shortcuts and carving your own path, your career journey is taken so many turns. And my first question for you is, how do you balance all of your creative pursuits between your writing, your recording, your speaking, your coding? And do you enjoy one more than any of the others?
Now, again, there are no rules for how I operate. So, tell you a little story. Whenever I want a new tattoo, I want it now, and I have made the decision, so I'm going to get it. And obviously, I have to book in with my guy, and it takes a few months, but I have made the decision and I'm going to do it. That is how I operate with every creative pursuit. I suddenly get the inspiration and I'm going to do it. Like at the end of 2025, I said, right, I'm going to redesign my website. So I went hard. In 2 weeks, redesigned my whole website, and I lost sleep. I dreamt about it. I worked all hours on the weekends and the evenings because I wanted to do it, and I did it. That's the job done. Great. It doesn't last for months and months and months. It just happens. Next, I want to make a website for my drum transcriptions. Right, I'll do that in a week. I'll just do it, and I'll spend all this ridiculous time on it. Obviously, I had to have a break in between my website redesign and the drum website because otherwise I would have died. That's the thing. I do these stints of things, and then I have quite a bit of a break, and I make sure to take care of myself. And then I do another thing. And then now my next thing is I'm writing a song now. So, and I'm going to do it, and I have to do it, and I'm going to give myself this time. I'm going to release it by the end of April. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to plan my life around it. I plan my life around getting to do these creative things. And maybe I'll skip a yoga class on that normal day because I really have to get to this point. It's like I do like little sprints with myself, if you can call it that. And so I don't balance whilst I'm doing the thing because I am in the moment and I don't want the energy to leave me. I can't leave it, or I will implode. So don't
Mm-hmm.
follow my advice because it's probably not very good. But that's just how I've always operated. And then maybe I'll be like barren of ideas for 6 months. But then when the next one strikes, I will go 100% in it full time. Obviously, work, parenting, exercise, all that other stuff. But that will be the only thing on my mind. And that's just how I operate.
No, I mean, this is very freeing for me because I feel like this is also how I operate but I don't think I've thought of it that way. But I need that push. I almost like need that pressure of like the mental like coach in my head being like, no, you need to do it. You need to get this done and then this done and then this done. And if I stop, it's never gonna get done.
Because otherwise it will consume me. If it goes on for 6 months, I try to keep as few things
Mhm.
in my brain as possible because I have a very multi-threaded brain,
Mhm.
but there's a limit, and so I take stuff out to put more stuff in, and uh, if I try and do a creative project over like 6 months, I'll have another idea and another idea and another idea, and I want to start it. And the other thing will get pushed out, which means I don't finish anything. But I like to finish things
Yes.
and just have them done. Even if they're not finished, even if they're slightly imperfect, they're still like, I'm going to say that's done. And I think that's one of the reasons why I stopped streaming as well, because I wanted that to go away and be done so I can do the next thing, because it was always on my mind. It was always there thinking, oh, I should do a stream. Oh, but I know that when I turn my computer on, that everything's going to be needing updates and it's going to break everything, which is another hour of my
Mhm.
time lost. You know, there's all these like layers of like cognitive threads and overload that crowd your minds and kind of make things a little bit hazy. And so that's why I like to just do something and then it's done. And then who knows if I'll ever write another song again, but I'm definitely going to finish this one. I've got this
Yeah.
vision. It's all like formed in my head. The music video is formed in my head, and I just want to be able to get to a point where it's done and I can do it and I can say I did it. And I think that's another thing that people struggle with is the wanting things to be so perfect and good and respected and appreciated that they spend so much time not doing it.
Mhm.
And I've always been the opposite to that. I will do it. Even though people would always say I'm a perfectionist, I don't think I ever was. It was just I had attention to detail, and the detail often got things confused when I was working with other people. I don't know why I'm talking about this right now, but just don't be a perfectionist. It's not worth it, because 99% of the time people aren't going to notice those things that you notice. And I think that's good life advice, really. Maybe that's one piece of advice you could take from me.
Yeah.
But like when you're being creative, like nothing's ever perfect either, especially like, and this is one of the underlying fundamental concepts of being a human, is that you cannot achieve perfection. And actually the beauty is in the imperfection, and the appreciation will be seen, especially in this age of AI and blah 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 blah. Like the beauty is in those fallible bits of stuff, like just keep a typo in or keep a wrong note in, or just like
Right.
prove something, prove that this thing is human. And I hate that we have to do that, but like also that's the beauty of it. And it's like going to a live performance when there's a mistake made. You know, it's like I was there for that, you know, and it
Yeah.
was real and it was raw and it was authentic, and no one cares
No, yeah.
either.
As long as it's done with heart and genuineness and, like you said, I mean, yeah, the attention to detail thing, I think I've also been labeled a perfectionist at different points in my life, and I don't see myself that way. I'm very comfortable with like little mistakes here and there that, maybe I can kind of live with. And I think there's a bit of a musician mindset where you recognize that things can't be perfect all the time. You might have a performance and you're not going to have all the time that you want to practice. But like going back to this, there's no shortcuts. Like you can't AI your way into playing piano or playing an instrument or anything. And you do have to pay attention to every detail. Like even if you don't get all the notes right in the moment, you have to practice them. You have to, there's things that are hard and you have to work through them.
That's the thing as well. Like, I think code and music are inextricably interlinked.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that is a creative pursuit is, but I think particularly music and coding, you have to practice. There are no shortcuts, and you have to embrace that. Embrace. It's about the process.
Yeah.
It's always about the process. And I think as a society, as an industry, we are getting so focused on the end result when actually the process is what is the most important part, because it's what leads us to discover things, discover new problems, new solutions, new ways of thinking. People don't like to experiment these days because they just want it now. They want a thing, they want an app, a website, they want it now. And like, that's not how life works. I actually used to not really believe in the long game. I was very, well, if it can't be done now, then I'm not going to bother. But the older I've got and the more experience I've gained, like, the long game really is the play. It's like, if you have a vision for what you want to do or where you want to be in 5, 10 years, you can start now. And every little thing that you do can go towards achieving that. And you have to be patient. And, I didn't get to where I am in any shortcuts whatsoever. And I'm thankful for that, because the things I've learned, the people I've met, the network I've built, the things I've learned about myself, and the things I've been able to communicate to other people and my child. And I think we cannot underestimate the power of time and experience and connection with other people. And I think one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently is that we are in this age of how we just talk to computers all day rather than each other. Like, we're losing that conversation and the discovery through conversation and the discovery through different viewpoints. And I think that's sad. And I think that is quite dangerous for the future, because we cannot have all the answers as a single person. And we do need to listen to other people and to talk with other people from all different places and walks of life and experiences in order to make a better future.
The other thing that comes to mind for me as far as maintaining some kind of direction over a long period of time, or like creating something that's worth anything, is the why as well. And to me, it's so clear hearing you talk about tech and hearing you talk about your experience and your vision for the internet, that is core and central to what you do, is a strong sense of purpose.
The why can also just be because you want to. Like, I'm writing a song because I want to. I'm not writing a song to change the world or change anything. I'm writing a song because it's a thing that I want to do. That's all it is. Like, it's not for anyone else, it's for me. And so there can be things that you do that are just for you, and that's okay. You don't need to do XYZ for this, that, and the other for free, for no money. You don't have to be exploited by the industry to get anywhere. And you can just do stuff because you want to. And that's another thing that the internet is kind of clouding our brains with, is that it's only worth doing something if you're going to get 1,000 views or loads of reposts or loads and loads of followers. I think we're kind of starting to see a bit of a shift, or maybe it's just like the fact that I surround myself on the internet with the people who don't care about that stuff. But I think the grift is fake. You can't achieve anything meaningful with that kind of approach. And also, people see right through it. Like, the real people, they see right through it. So do stuff for you, and then the people will come. Because I guarantee you, there are people out there who feel the same things as you do. You know, I released an article that I wrote in a rage a couple of weeks ago, and I just wrote it because I wanted to get it out of my head. I decided I was going to do it. I wanted to write my thoughts down, some therapy, right? But there are a lot of people who agreed with what I said, and a lot of people who felt the same things and who couldn't put those things into words. But I did it for me. But it just so happened that other people appreciated it and resonated with that. And so, you know, if you start with what you want and what you are, and unapologetically within reason, if you're a nice person, just be nice and yourself, then you will find your people.
Well, with that, I think that's a great place to end it and move on to our final section, which today we are closing out with a little game. So each of us in this game has 30 seconds to pitch a weird website that we love, as if it is the most important thing on the internet. No explaining what it is up front, no context, just the sell. And the other person gets to decide if they would visit this website. So I will go first, and then you get to close us out. Since you curate weird corners of the internet for a living, I am fully expecting you to win. But I do have a website that is near and dear to my heart. So here I go. So let me tell you about Chunk. He is a force of a bear who in 2025 won the Fat Bear contest despite having a broken jaw, likely from a fight with another bear. Then there is Bear 910, who is officially described as a rectangle and a cruise ship. And this wonderful collection of bears drew over 1.5 million votes in 2025. And this is a competition where it's a single elimination bracket tournament like March Madness. The bears are identified by number, sometimes only get a nickname. And to qualify, a bear must be photographed the beginning of summer and the fall so you can see all of the bears in their previous and extremely fat states. And there's even a junior division called Fat Bear Junior for bear cubs. Chunk came in second 2 years in a row, but this year he won, meaning he has a whole redemption arc. And that is my website, the Fat Bear competition website. Would you visit my website?
Yes, but only to witness the spectacle, because I have no idea what I would be letting myself in for.
Okay.
And it sounds like I'd be extremely confused. But it sounds like a good time.
Yay. Excellent. It is a good time. And Chunk is very, very chunky.
Is it real bears?
It's real bears. Yeah. It's a national park in Alaska, and they put up webcams. And yeah, there's a yearly competition of the fat bear who
I love
wins.
it.
Yeah.
That's really cute. That's really cute. Oh, so yeah, because when they come out of hibernation, they're not fat.
Yes,
and then they get
exactly.
Cute.
Yes. Yeah. And then they all fatten up, and you get to choose the fattest
That is
bear.
cute. Yeah, that's that. I yeah, send it on. I am all for the fat bears.
Awesome. Your turn.
Okay, imagine a website that you cannot navigate, yet you can travel through. You can discover art, meaning, cryptic descriptions of life. You don't know where you're going and whether you'll ever come out, but you must go deeper in order to understand what this is about. And you will still emerge from the other end wondering if it was all a dream, or if it even happened, or whether any of this exists at all.
Ooh, I am very intrigued and would definitely visit this website. It's giving me like Encyclopedia Britannica 1994 software vibes.
So funny you say that, because this website doesn't exist anymore,
Oh,
but
no.
it was born in the 90s. It was called, now, this was one of my first experiences on the internet, and it shaped a lot about how I see the internet and how I want to use the internet and what I want to build on the internet.
Mm.
It's called hell.com. Now, there is a Wikipedia article about hell.com. And actually, a couple of years ago, I tried to recreate hell.com.
Yes.
But it wasn't as fun when I was creating it, because the whole point is that you had no idea what you clicked on, what it would do, or where it would go.
Yeah.
And it changed all the time.
The labyrinth.
And it was like random stuff, and it was pinnacle of being on the internet in the 90s. So read up about it, hell.com. It was so incredible. And I want it to come back to life again. But if I built it, it wouldn't give me the same wonder, because I'd know what I did, and I did have some fun with recreating some of it. Like, I actually went on the Wayback Machine, and then I took some journeys from it and I recreated those journeys on an Astro site, and it was great. I can't even remember whether it's still live on Netlify or whatever, I don't know. But read up about it, and please, someone rebuild this kind of experience, because it was so incredibly entrancing, and it's what got me really hooked on the weirdness of the internet and how fascinating it can be, but it felt a bit dangerous, like you didn't know what was, but it wasn't, it was completely not dangerous, but it felt that way, and it was exciting. And especially as a teenager, when you don't know anything about the world, you think you're doing something wrong when you're navigating the kind of website like this. And it was, I will never forget it. I will think about this till I die.
I love it. Okay, well, yes. And, the chaos element could be multiple people contribute to it, and then you don't know what somebody else built. So, we could all jump in on rebuilding it together.
Go for it. Yeah. No code reviews, because you don't need to see what's being done. Just YOLO merge everything. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where can folks find you on the internet? Where's the best place for them to look?
Everything's on my website, whitepanther.com, whitep4nth3r.com, or Blue Sky. I've got a YouTube channel. I do some kind of stuff. But I'm also, please subscribe to my newsletter, which you can do on my website, because that is when you will hear about the release for my new song.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Overcommitted. If you like what you hear here, please do follow, subscribe, or do whatever it is you like to do on the podcast app of your choice. Check us out on Blue Sky as well, and share with your friends. Until next week, goodbye.